What's going on, everybody? This is your tour guide around the SWAC C Wells coming at you with another video today. Y'all make sure y'all lock in with us. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and become a part of the SWAC Talk family by becoming a member. 99 cents gets you a membership to the YouTube channel. We have special perks coming at you. We're going to be dropping special members only videos and shorts. I'm going to have rants and reactions to different things that I want to put there. So if you want to get everything, man, become a member of the Swag Talk crew for 99 cents and get down with the get down, man. And so we're going to still be bringing y'all a lot of stuff, swag smoke and everything like that, and all our normal videos. But we also bring y'all that membership tier. So get down with that. Check out the Facebook and Instagram, both Swag Talk, Twitter Swag Talk 76. And now let's get on with the show, man. Let's do it.
Welcome to the show, see Bojo guy. Wednesday, Sundays, catch the ride. Football hoops, we breaking wide. Stats and facts, truth on high. SWAT talk where the combos real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Hit the corner of the field, we strategize. Breaking the game down, no disguise. Play by play, we analyze. I wear sharp, we magnify. SWAT talk where the combos real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Just pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays, heat, Sundays, ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the combos real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel. Wednesdays, heat, Sundays, ignite. We talking legends shining bright. Back and forth, day or night. This the plug, we bring the light. SWAT talk where the combos real. From Texas to Florida, we seal the deal. Cats pull up, the vibes are real. Chopping it up, we spin the wheel.
What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Welcome to another edition of Swag Talk, where we cover the show inside and out. I am your tour guide around Swag C Wells coming at you, and this is week 2 of For Entertainment Purposes Only, where we take a look at the point spreads for this week's action, and I give my thoughts on everything. This is not necessarily reflected in my preview. I'm not going to really give my winners and losers. I'm going to say that for my preview, which will be dropping on Friday, because tomorrow night, 8 p.m., I'll be chopping it up with my homie JB on Sports Talking with JB. So I'm going to have the link in my socials, so y'all can follow me there and watch me chop it up about the Southern Bama State game coming up on Saturday. So that's where I'm gonna be tomorrow night, man. Y'all be there too. Y'all come chop it up with me and the homie JB, man. Good people. I love to get together and talk Bama State and Southern with him. So we're gonna do that. Like I said, Friday will be my week 2 preview. Sunday week 2 recap. And Thursday, Swag Smoke, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Y'all make sure y'all lock in with us and let's do the damn thing. So we're not gonna be here too long here, not here for a long time, but we're here for a good time for this episode. So let's go ahead and jump into it. First game on the docket, as far as the way this is listed, is Alabama State at Southern. Hornets 3.5-point favorites over the Jags, over under 62. That 3.5 is honestly fine with me. You could probably even bump it up to 6. Bama State had a really good offensive showing on Thursday night against UAB. Southern been up and down offensively and defensively, but I thought they played better in spurts than it looked Saturday. So I think they kind of rounding the corner, but they'll be definitely tested on defense for sure. With Andrew Body and that offense, definitely gonna test Southern. Um, Test everything that they kind of been struggling with. That over under 62, I think it might be a little bit high, but Bama State scored 42 points in their first game. Southern in their first 2 games, I think they scored like a total of 44 or something like that. 48. So not they haven't really Southern hasn't really scored a lot of points. Although they did score 34 in this game, but typically Southern's a team that hovers around the mid 20s. So I don't know if this game is gonna get into get that high. I think if it gets into the high 20s and 30s, then Bama State should definitely be in better shape. At least from what we've seen thus far. But I can see this game finishing around 58 or something like that. So I think the game can approach the over, but I don't think it's gonna go over that 62. I think it might get close, but I do think it's gonna be an under there. Next game is our Alcorn State at Alabama A&M. Bulldogs 2.5 point favorites. Over under 48 and a half. This is a game I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring game at all. Um, I might honestly even with a 48 even with a 48 and a half, um, I might still take the under. Um, both teams didn't really score a lot of points on Saturday on the weekend, but varying for different reasons. Alabama and them played Arkansas. They looked good in their first drive, but after that they really couldn't get anything going, so they only scored 7. Alcorn scored 10 against Northwestern State. Turned the ball over, I think, like 3 times. Moved the ball decently, but could not really finish. Um, and that's kind of a problem because that was an FCS opponent. So how much better are they going to be in week 2 um, against a like opponent is a good question. So I think this game will probably be close. We still don't know enough about Alabama and them because of the opponent they played. So it's tough to really gauge where they are, um, either negatively or positively. Alcorn, like I said, they had a rough game. And, like I said, is that an outlier or is that kind of what they are? We'll find out more in this game. So I'm more tempted to go with that -2.5, even 3. I don't think it's gonna be anything bigger than that. Alcorn does have a chance at winning this game. Obviously, with the spread being what it is, they do have a shot. I'm not sure if the game is even gonna hit the mid 20s to cross that number of 48 and a half. But I would still lean on the under because at least at this point neither team has shown that they can put points on the board yet. So we'll see. But definitely an interesting matchup right there. Next is UAPB going to Central Arkansas. Both teams come in 0-1. Both teams got beat pretty soundly by their FCS opponents. I think they both, so I think Central Arkansas, I think they played Missouri, and Pine Bluff had played Texas Tech, so they both got beat pretty soundly. I think Central Arkansas probably is the better team out of the two. The spread is 25 and a half point favorites for Central Arkansas, over under 64. Um, I think if this game crosses the over, it's going to be because Central Arkansas probably will outscore Pine Bluff. Um, I'm not quite sure. Pine Bluff, they were outmatched from the jump, basically from against Texas Tech, which that's a team that spent a ton of money in NIL to kind of get themselves up to par. So you can't really take a lot from that game. I thought, from what I heard, Central Arkansas played fairly well early against Missouri, but couldn't keep up. I think the Bears probably might be a little bit too much, especially at home against Pine Bluff. So I think that 25 and a half might be for my sake. I want to say it's a little high, but I think that number is probably going to be around there. That 64 might be again a little high, but I think if it does cross that, it's probably going to be um, if it gets close to or above that 64, then I think this game is a blowout because I don't know if Pine Bluff has the offense yet to go score for score with somebody, and I'm not sure how their defense is because this is their first game against an FCS opponent, so we don't really know enough about either one of these teams. So this could be a really bad blowout, or it could be kind of a comfortable win. But I do see Central Arkansas um, at least um, have an opportunity to cover that spread. Next up is Bethune-Cookman at Miami. Again, this is one of those you name the score type of games. Um, Wildcats scored 3 field goals against FIU. Gave up some solid yardage on the ground. Miami coming off a big win over Notre Dame. Spread is Miami at 51.5 point favorites. The over under is 53. So basically, they're anticipating Miami to score pretty much all the points in this game. Um, Again, I can see this being a game where Bethune gets an early score, but Miami probably, does the rest of the work in this game. So I can see that over under being crossed, especially if Miami gets rolling. And even if, if like I say, I'm just throwing out a score. I'm not saying that's what the score will be, but like 40 45-7 puts you right there. 49-7 puts you above. 42 to 45-10 push you above. So I can see a game like this definitely crossing the over under because I don't think Miami is gonna call off the dogs if they get a decent sized lead. And if Bethune can score a few points, that'll definitely push the game even closer to that over. So I do like this game being over. I think this is the first game that I picked um, to be um, over the number. So this is one of those games again. Bethune-Cookman's second FBS game in 2 weeks. So let's just see how they fare. Next up is Florida A&M taking on FAU. Owls 13-point favorites over under a 40.5. Um, Coming off of the performance that FAMU had against Howard on Saturday, um, I think that 13 is ambitious. I don't know enough about FAU at this point to say how good or bad they are. Um, they they're 0-1 at this point. Who did they play? I was trying to see um what they what their matchup was this weekend. They lost to Maryland 39-7. So not a great start to their season. And both teams, I guess when you look at it, the two teams combined to score 16 points in their 2 games over the weekend. So neither team really did much offensively. Um, FAMU really did not look great offensively. I think that 13 is really respectful to the Rattlers. Um, I I I I I think if they can, obviously they can get some offense going. They have a shot to put some points on the board, but that's a big if at this point with the play of your quarterback in the previous game. But a guy can improve from his first game to his second game. And I mean, same thing could be said for FAU. I think this game probably barely would. I mean, if you're looking at it the from what they have on paper at this point on the spread, then I think this game can probably barely scratch crossing the over. But if FAMU doesn't play better offensively, then I think just numbers and things like that will get FAU to even win this game by 17-20. That 13 is ambitious. Honestly, I think I'm not quite sure because I don't know enough about the Owls yet. So this one is kind of intriguing to me. All the numbers are fairly low, so I, I I would probably definitely take the over because I think this game will cross that. But if it does, I think it's going to be a one-sided affair. Can FAMU defense play well enough to keep the game in that range till the offense gets going? That's going to be the question that needs to be answered. And we'll find it out on Saturday. Next up is Valley going to Tarleton State. The Texans are 2-0. They have an FBS win over Army um, in this earlier season. Um, Tarleton State favored by 39.5, over under 55.5. Valley still is an interesting case. I mean, they looked okay in spurts. In some ways, they kind of remind me a little bit of the Valley in the early 2020s when Coach Dancy was there. They do have a nice spirit to them. I think they were throwing a few things at the wall to see what happened on Saturday. They were almost in danger of letting that game really get away, but two fumbles kept them in it. They ran a couple trick plays, and defensively they were pretty salty. I thought defensively they were, even though they gave up yardage, I think they were still in it and fought and clawed, which is what a team like this needs to do. But this is a different beast. I mean, this is a team that's coming in off of FBS win, and now people have tape on you. So can Valley continue to make the adjustments week to week? I do like Josh Brown at quarterback. I think he's a guy who is kind of he's like a whirling dervish, like they like the old people say. He can kind of get away from trouble. So it's gonna be interesting to see how they play against a team that's gonna that kind of has an idea of what they want to do now. Um, but this is a tough matchup for them on the road. I'm if they turn the ball over and they don't really move the ball offensively, because if you take away the yardage that Brown had at quarterback in the basically scrambling, wasn't even really design runs. You take away his yardage, I think he had 83 yards. You take those away. If you just put those to the side, the rest of the offense accounted for 78 yards of rushing. Um, but that's including his yardage. So they need to get a actual run game going. And I think from this point on, they probably do need to commit to either Brown or Nunez at quarterback. They rotated those guys quite a bit, and the difference is stark. When one guy's in, the offense is a little bit more dynamic. When the other guy's in, you can kind of sit in the house. So they're gonna have to account for that kind of stuff and figure those things out. I think this game, I think Carlton probably going to cover, and I think the game is going to cross that 55 and a half. So, um, this I'm just going to be interested to see Valley progress, especially in this series, to see how these numbers move week to week. And it's kind of telling to see that spread be so high, even after a game where Valley, scored 29 points, and looked okay at times. Um, but we'll see. Um, I think it cut it off. But Jackson State is at Southern Miss. Now I missed it cut it off. So let me see, can I pull it up? But they had the Eagles as two and a either 2.5 or 3.5 point favorites. I think it was 3.5. This again another intriguing game because from where most of us sit, a lot of us feel like Jackson State has a chance in this game. Southern Miss had a pretty solid first half against Mississippi State before they kind of wore down. They have a lot of new guys on their team. They have a new coach. Um, it's gonna be interesting to see how they approach this matchup. Jackson State did not play. They did not play great, but they did exactly what they needed to do to get out of that game. Um, and they have some weapons in their run game. Um, and that's key for what they like to do. In the passing game, it's gonna come around the defense. Jeremiah Williams, I know he was banged up in that game, but I do think that they have an opportunity to make some things happen. Um, and so this is an intriguing ball game, and I like these numbers. Southern Miss minus 3.5, over under 49.5. Um, so basically, you're looking at a game that's like in the mid 20s. Like a 27, 27-24 across that mark. So something like that, I can definitely see if Jackson State can can not shoot themselves in the foot. If they can, move the ball, they can, protect. Quarterback can be, consistent. Um, I think most people have been looking at this matchup, but you can't sleep on Southern Miss. Like I said, they have basically everything new. So they're not necessarily the Southern Miss from a couple years ago, and that makes this an interesting matchup. Um, and so that's kind of where I stand. So I think, like I said, I think that 3.5 is again a very respectful number um, for Jackson State. Honestly, both numbers are, and so I think that definitely is something that can be beneficial for them. I think they got a shot. We'll see. We also have Grambling at Ohio State. Um, Over under is 53.5. Spread is 53. Um, so they anticipate Grambling not even scoring. I think this game can go a couple ways, and like I said, I'm not going to dive really deeper into it, but I'm going to take a little bit more of a deeper look on Friday. But this game can go a couple ways. That can, if you're kind of looking at taking Grambling plus 53, and taking the under on this number, there is a way that can happen, and a lot of it's Ohio State. Um, they have a youngster at quarterback. They're coming off of a huge win against Texas. They are they gonna be focused on this game? I'm just I'm just looking at it that way. Are they gonna come into this game, kind of overlooking Grambling and just going through the motions, which is always possible. Um, Not saying that that's what they're gonna do, but if you want to look at it in the aspect of approaching, you know, this game not being a 53-point win for them, um, are they looking ahead to future matchups? Are they, I mean, they got University of Ohio next week, but so it's not like they have a huge game ahead of them, behind Grambling. But are they kind of just looking past this game because everybody like, man, it's Grambling, whatever. We beat Texas, we number one now, and all of this, they kind of go through the motions in the first half, whatever. And Grambling kind of, just not really go away, but not really, you know, um, score a ton, but maybe make a couple plays and kind of, you know, get their attention. Um, that's the main way I can see this game being below 53 uh and being below that 53-point spread. Um, if they're focusing locked in and they play like they did against Texas, they're probably going to cover both of those numbers will be covered. So this game, man, I'm really not looking forward to that game at all, and I'm ready for Grambling to get past it and get on with the rest of their schedule. Um, Next up, we have Texas Southern at Cal. Bears minus 45 and a half. 49 and a half is the over under. Um, Possibility both those numbers are top. Even though TSU played, lost a close game to Prairie View, they offensively did not do a ton statistically. They had their moments, and they could have won this game. Gave up a big drive at the end. Um, how are they gonna compartmentalize that and be ready for a Cal team who kind of I don't say came out of nowhere, but they had a freshman quarterback that played Saturday that really slung that ball around, and they looked pretty solid in their first game of the season against Oregon State, I believe. Um, so it's a FBS game, it's a money game. Cal quarterback like the true freshman, 234 yards, 3 touchdowns. Um, are they going to be able to kind of hit that stride they had on Saturday? Or are they again going to kind of go through the motions? Is TSU going to be able to put that their Prairie View game behind them? which I mean, you lose in disappointing fashion. Sometimes it carries over. Sometimes you block it out and move on. Um, I really, like I said, I especially coming off of an emotional game like that. Um, it's always tough to play a game where you don't really have opportunity. You don't have a concrete opportunity to win. I'm not gonna. I mean, because anything can happen any given Saturday and all of that. But I always feel like when you come off a game like that, you need a game that that you can lock in and get back on track. And that this might be not that kind of game. So that's always something to kind of look at. But I think both of those numbers are safe. Um, if you're looking at them from a Cal perspective. And finally, this is an interesting spread. Also, UT Rio Grande Valley, they're 1-0. They won their first game Saturday, taking on the Prairie View Panthers in Prairie View, home opener for the Panthers. They have UTRGV as a half a point favorite over Prairie View, over under 54. I don't, like I said, this is a new team, and they won their first game in dominant fashion. But I honestly think a half a point favorite over Prairie View is a little disrespectful. Um, I know the Panthers didn't play their best; they had a lot of penalties, that hurt them. But this is a team that has a lot of talent, and they really are, they're potentially a West Division champion. Um, they're coming off of a big win. They probably just need something to get the ball rolling. And I think to look at this team against a new team, and have them be even a half a point underdog is a little disrespectful to me. Especially with this, they anticipating a shootout. Um, so like I said, I don't know about enough about that team to really say one way or the other. How I view it, but I think that even if it's a 2 point, even if Prairie a 2 point favorite, I think that's better than being a half a point underdog to this team that's not quite an unknown because they have played a game, but they are new, so it's a little interesting to me for that. But like I said, we'll dive deeper into this game for sure on Friday with our preview. So I think if you look at the way that they scored a lot of points on Saturday. This could be a higher scoring game, so I think that 54 is safe. I mean that could be like 28-27 or something like that. That's not an outlandish score. It doesn't need that's a number that doesn't need to be outlandish to be crossed. So I think that's safe. Um, but that half a point favor for them is interesting to me, and so that one kind of caught my eye when I saw it. Um, and so that's that. So with that being said, man, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC C Wells, signing out again Wednesday. Gonna be kicking it with my boy JB on Sports Talking with JB. And then Thursday, SWAC Smoke, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern. Friday, week 2 preview. Um, I'm not 100% sure about going live on Saturday. I had to check with everybody to see what everybody's schedule look like. It is a home game for us. So, I'm not sure what time I'll get back. But we can do it. We'll do it. Otherwise, Sunday recap of week 2, and then most likely Monday, week 3 episode of For Entertainment Purposes Only, and then next Wednesday, week 3 preview. So with that being said, I'm your tour guide around the SWAC. See well signing out. Catch y'all on the rebound. Peace.